Nobody talks about this part. Everyone is drilling their dink, fixing their grip, working on the third shot drop, and all of that matters. But there's a layer underneath all of it, a layer that determines whether the technique shows up when you need it or completely disappears no puetaru. That almost nobody addresses directly, the mental game. Not in a vague, motivational poster kind of way. The actual, specific, trainable mental habits that separate players who perform under pressure from players who fall apart under it. The players who carry errors from one point to the next versus the ones who drop them instantly. The ones who tighten at game point versus the ones who play exactly the same. These are not personality differences. They're not talent differences. They're habits, specific habits that can be identified, understood, and built. 6 of them. And once you see them clearly, you're going to start recognizing exactly which ones your game is missing. Let's go. 1. The score is not your problem. Your reaction to it is. Here's something that happens to almost every player on almost every court every single day. The game is loose, fun, unremarkable. It's 2-2, and you're playing your game, or dinking well, getting to the kitchen, making good decisions, nothing special, but nothing wrong either. Then the score gets close, 8-8, 9-9, and something shifts, not in the ball, not in your opponent, in you. The grip tightens, the dink gets a little shorter, the swing gets a little quicker, and suddenly the player who was moving and playing freely is stiff, tentative, second-guessing everything. The score didn't change your ability. It changed your attention. At 2-2, your attention was on the ball and where you needed to be. At 9-9, your attention moved to the scoreboard, to the implications of losing this point, to what happens if you miss. And the moment your attention moved from the ball to the consequences, your body stopped getting the clear instructions it needs to execute reliably. It started guessing, and guessing produces errors. The mental fix is structural. Treat every point as its own completely separate event. Not the 11th point in a tight game, just a point. Just a ball coming toward you at a specific height and speed in a position you're standing in on the court. Those 2 things. That's all the information your body actually needs to hit the shot correctly. The score lives outside of that. It has no business being inside your decision-making. Consistent players don't manage pressure better than you. They've just made the score irrelevant to how they swing the paddle. Build that habit and the game stops having big moments. It's just points, one after another, all the same. 2, the player who forgets errors, fastest wins the most. Every player makes mistakes, every single one, at every single level. The 5.0 player at the net who's been playing for years still floats a dink occasionally. Still misses a reset, still makes the wrong decision under pressure and pays for it. The difference is what happens next. For most recreational players, what happens next is a chain reaction. The error sits in the body. The grip tightens on the following point. The decision-making gets cautious. The next ball carries the weight of the one that just went wrong. And one error quietly becomes 3 or 4, not because the player got worse, but because they're still in the previous point while the current one is already happening. Watch what a genuinely advanced player does after an error. It's almost unsettling. There's a brief acknowledgement, a small physical gesture, a reset breath, something that signals the point is over, and then nothing. They walk to the line and play, not pretending the error didn't happen, not suppressing frustration. Just choosing, deliberately, to put it down, to stop carrying something that is now finished and cannot be changed. The mental skill here is not suppression, it's replacement. Instead of trying not to think about the error, you immediately give the brain something else to do. Where is the next ball going? What do I need to do on this serve? What's my plan for the next point? The brain can't hold 2 things at once with full attention. Give it a forward-facing question and the backward-facing error loses its grip. Every point ends. The only question that matters is what you do with the next one. And if you want to take your pickleball to the next level, check out the Pickleball Master Pack, a pack that includes the Elite Player Guide, a guide with technical and tactical tips, exclusive routines, and much more. The Become a PPA Tour Player Guide, where you'll learn how to become a pro pickleball player, a full 7 days fitness routine to take your fitness to the next level, and a prevention routine to prevent injuries and enhance recovery. This pack already helped hundreds of pickleball players. Get yours clicking the link in the description. Let's continue with the video. 3. Focus is a skill, not a personality trait. This one changes how you think about mentally Tough players entirely. Most recreational players look at someone who stays locked in under pressure, someone who plays the same way at game point as they play at 0-0, and assume that person just has that quality. A focused personality, a calm temperament, something innate that they either have or don't, and that assumption is the reason they never try to build it themselves. They've decided it isn't available to them. It's available to everyone. Because focus isn't a trait, it's a skill, a specific trainable ability to bring your attention back to one thing over and over again, regardless of what else is trying to pull it away. And like every other skill, it's built through deliberate repetition. Here's what that repetition looks like in practice. Every time your attention moves away from the ball, to the score, to a missed shot, to what your partner is thinking, to whether your opponents are better than you notice it and you bring it back. To one thing, where is the next ball going? That's the anchor. Every time the mind wanders, you return to that question, not once, not when it's convenient, every single point for the whole match. Over time, the return gets faster, the wandering gets shorter, and eventually, focus stops being something you have to fight for and starts being something that's just there, a default rather than an achievement. Mentally tough players aren't born concentrated. They've returned their attention to the ball enough times that returning to it is now the path of least resistance. Train the return. That's the whole skill. 4. Pressure doesn't create problems. It reveals them. When a player falls apart at game point, and when the dink that was working all game suddenly falls into the net, when the drive that felt automatic suddenly sails wide, the easy explanation is pressure. Too much pressure, the moment was too big, they couldn't handle it. That's not what happened. What happened is that pressure exposed something that was already there. A swing mechanic that works fine when the stakes are low but breaks down when attention sharpens. A decision-making process that operates on instinct in casual play but collapses the moment the brain starts trying to control the outcome manually. The problem was always there. The pressure just turned the lights on. And this is important because it changes what the fix is. If pressure creates the problem, the solution is to feel less pressure, which you can't control. If pressure reveals the problem, the solution is to have a process reliable enough to fall back on when the lights come on. A between-point routine. 2 things to focus on: a pre-serve plan, something procedural that the brain can execute when emotion is trying to take over. The players who hold up at game point are not less nervous than you. They're standing on a process, not on a feeling. The process doesn't change when the score is tight because processes don't feel pressure. People do. Give your game a process and you give it something to stand on when everything else gets shaky. 5. Frustration is just expectation. Meeting reality. Watch a frustrated player on a pickleball court and you'll always see the same thing underneath the emotion. A gap. A gap between the game they expected to be playing and the game that's actually happening. The dink that should have stayed low didn't. The opponent they expected to beat is winning. The ball bounced wrong at the worst possible moment, and each of those gaps between expectation and reality produces a small charge of frustration. Enough of them stack up and the game starts to fall apart emotionally. The players who stay emotionally flat throughout a match, the ones who are consistently dangerous regardless of how the game is going, have not removed expectation. They've adjusted it. They've accepted at a genuine practiced level that pickleball is unpredictable, that the bounce will be wrong sometimes, that the opponent will make a shot they had no business making, that the dink that worked 12 times in a row will fail on the 13th, not as an excuse, as a fact about the game that they're not going to spend energy fighting. When you stop expecting the game to behave perfectly, every imperfection stops costing you emotional energy. The bad bounce is just a bad bounce. The missed dink is just a missed dink. You deal with what's in front of you and move on. The game continues. Your game continues. Unaffected, undistracted, dangerous. Frustration is not a character flaw, it's information. It tells you where your expectations are out of alignment with reality. Adjust the expectations and the frustration dissolves. What's left is just pickleball. 6. Confidence follows action. It never leads it. This is the backwards one. The one that most recreational players have exactly wrong and don't know it. Here's how most people think confidence works. You wait until you feel confident, until the nervous energy settles, until you feel ready, until you feel like you know what you're doing, and then you commit to the shot from that place of readiness. Confidence first, action second, but confidence doesn't arrive before the action. It arrives after. It's a result, not a requirement. It's what your body feels when it has done something repeatedly enough to trust itself, not what it feels before it's had any evidence to stand on. Waiting to feel confident before committing is waiting for something that cannot come without the very action you're waiting to feel confident enough to take. It's a loop that never opens. The way out is commitment first, not big, reckless commitment to a shot you haven't earned. Specific, deliberate commitment to the shot in front of you, whatever it is, with full intention behind it. Dink cross court. Fully, not hedging, not half deciding. This ball, this target, this amount of pace, commit and execute, then do it again and again. Not because you feel confident, because you're building it, one committed ball at a time. The players who look confident at the kitchen aren't standing there feeling something. They're doing something. They've replaced the question of, how do I feel, with the question of, where does this ball need to go? And in that replacement, confidence stopped being a prerequisite and became a byproduct. That's how it actually works. Commit first, every ball. Trust follows. So there it is. The score has no bearing on how you should swing. Treat every point as its own event and the scoreboard loses its power. Drop errors as fast as you can and replace them with a forward-facing question. Return your attention to the ball every time it wanders because focus is built by returning, not by never leaving. Trust your process when pressure arrives because pressure reveals problems rather than creating them. Adjust your expectations to match the reality of pickleball. Unpredictable, imperfect, and all the better for it. And commit to your shots before you feel confident because confidence is what commitment builds over time, not what it requires up front. The mental game is not separate from pickleball, it is pickleball. Every shot is mental before it's physical. Build these habits and the physical part takes care of itself. If one of these landed for you, drop it in the comments. I want to know which one. And if you want to keep seeing the game broken down the way it actually works, subscribe to the Pickleball Dude. See you in the next one.